Nancy. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Well, Mr. O'Malley, did you get changed? You did. Mr. O'Malley's got long hair now, but anyway, Mr. O'Malley was the good Catholic Christian he is, was wanting to attend a class, and he was running a little bit late. Although the class hadn't started, he wanted to be there on time because he'd getting this reputation of being late all the time. So he made it to the church and was looking for a parking lot, couldn't find a parking space, and as he was looking, he just said a prayer. He said, "Dear God, please help me find a parking place quick. If you do, then I will come early to every other class. I'll come every Sunday. I'll do everything I can for the church." And then it just amazingly, a parking space opened up, and he found it, and he put his car right in there, and he looked back up to God and said, "God, never mind, I found one." Hello to all of those on Facebook, and we're glad that you joined us today, or even if you're looking at this on tape. Thank you, dear. All right. Well, if you don't know this, St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland. And there's some things that you probably, maybe some of you all know, some of you don't. But St. Patrick, even though he is considered a saint, thus St. Patrick, he was never canonized a saint from the Catholic Church, believe it or not. And, believe it or not, St. Patrick was not from, I'm not going to get to that yet, was never from Ireland. He was in England, and he got in trouble as a young adult, a kid, teenager is what he was, and he was sent to work in Ireland, kind of like the old chain gangs here. But St. Patrick, while he was, after he got done there, and why he was kind of had an awakening there, he kind of reminds me of Paul in the Bible. But he wrote this Confessio, which is similar to what you think it is. It's a confession that he wrote. And what he wrote about was a vision that he had while he was in Ireland. And that vision opened up his eyes to say, you know what, there's more to me in life than just me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People other than Catholics celebrate St. Patrick's Day, believe that or not. Yes, that's true. Other than Catholics see St. Patrick's Day.
We have a few Unity people here celebrate.
Yes, I know that we have some people that have already started, it looks like.
Yes.
So, anyway. I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
This is something that I think that it's from the Revealing Word, and I think that Fillmore, I'm using this today because I think that when St. Patrick had his epiphany, if you will, that he, what had happened when he was over there, he found out that he wasn't all that he was, just himself in life, and that God, there is more to life. And like happens to a lot of us, we see that in nature, don't we? Sometimes we get an epiphany in nature when we're by ourselves, or we don't have to be, but that's sometimes when it happens. And so he found this epiphany that, you know what, when I get done here, when I get done with my servitude, my time, then I'm going to come back here and help these people, because he found a lot of things. And that took a pretty humble person. Humility, though, from his definition, in Fillmore's definition in the Revealing Word, is freedom from pride and arrogance, which is Webster's definition. Recognition that the personal man by himself is ineffectual. I can of myself do nothing, from John 5:30. The Father abiding in me doeth his works, in John 14:10. True humility is needed very much in the Christ-centered individual. The true Christian is humble. He knows the nothingness of the lesser self in man and the allness of Christ. So some people might see that and think of humility or being humble as, you know, no one notices me and I need to go along without being noticed, and I'll just do these good deeds every once in a while. Well, that's not really what we're talking about here. In metaphysics, obviously we're looking at beyond the physical, so it's beyond the written word. And as we learned in Metaphysical Bible, which is Wednesdays 5 to 6, for those of you watching, last week, is that when we look at things metaphysically, They mean something to us individually as a person, and it means more. It's not a literal reading. So, people sometimes forget, especially when we look at the Bible, if you're beaten up with the Bible, if you're raised with something, well, you got to do this or else this is going to happen, then you're not really reading it metaphysically, first of all, and you're forgetting that the Bible is the gospel, which the gospel means good news. And if you're not getting good news from it, then something's happening that is preventing that. And usually, in fact, all the time, what's preventing it is our own thoughts. Our own thoughts are saying, well, that can't be good. And I'm not saying that everything happens is good, but good is in everything that happens. And there's a difference there, okay? And so we need to know that. But humility, according to the metaphysician, can be the most grandiose person you know. Can be very humble. Can be very humble. It isn't how much you're out there, it's how much you're in here. And so you could be, there's a guy in Kansas City, which I've mentioned before. Every year at Christmas time, he gives away $100 bills. And for a long time, everybody, what they call him, they didn't call him the Secret Santa, they called him something. Anyway, called him something Santa. But he would do that all the time. And nobody ever knew who he was. And then he started giving it, he must have been making a lot more money, because he started giving a lot of money to the police officers in Kansas City, and they would give out the $100 bills. And so a guy like that, or a person like that, is humble, not because he doesn't want his name known. There are probably reasons he doesn't, yet because he's living within himself and knowing that he is not the only one. That I can of myself do nothing. Recognition that the personal man by himself is ineffectual. Okay? Most people, or at least all people actually, that I've known that have made money in life have been very, not only humble, but very willing to give back. Now, for a lot of people, that's hard to understand. That's, the people I see in the news, they're just crooks. They have a lot of money, they had to get it illegally. Not so. If you're humble and you live a Christ-centered life, you should make a lot of money. You should make a lot of everything. How do you keep that, though? You remember that you're not all that yourself. You just remember that it's all of us. So that's what he's talking about in this humility idea. And St. Patrick had it, obviously, to dedicate his life to go back to a place that he was sentenced to. I mean, that's pretty cool, I think. That's pretty neat. We can beat each other down when we put each other down, well, that puts our human consciousness into motion, into a downward trajectory. It's kind of like when when you're successful with finances and you decide, well, I'm keeping all this. Everybody leave me alone. I'm going to be a hermit now. I've got all my money. I've got my pot of gold. That's when you are on the downward trajectory, because you're forgetting that it's a human race. But we can also lift each other up and put the human consciousness into motion in an upward trajectory. And that has nothing to do with money. It can, if you have a lot of money, you want to be like the guy in Kansas City that I gave an example of. Give it back. Circulation is the idea, not holding on to whatever you got. In fact, we used to do this exercise a long time ago. I think y'all have probably done it before. But go ahead and make a fist. And I mean make a real fist. I mean tighten it. Tight. It doesn't make a difference which hand you're doing. Tight as you can. Hold it tight. Hold it tight. Let me see if this still works. I haven't done it for many, many years. Hold it tight. Open your hand. Wait, I think you're supposed to open your hand and do that or something.
No.
Anyway, I saw the blood rushing back to my hand just now. So anyway, you can't hold it tight forever, can you?
No.
And besides, it hurts. In spiral dynamics, the spiral dynamics of human consciousness can go either way. And so, in fact, I'm glad I didn't ask Reverend Francie to put this up, but I knew she would. I figured she would. She put in the picture of one of the pictures of spiral dynamics. And these are the colors these things sometimes change. I mean, they don't change really, but they change the verbiage meaning the same thing. But if you look here, see at the bottom, you have red, and then yellow, then green, and blue, and then purple, and then there is some more. But all of this actually can be traced to human history. I don't know, how many have ever heard of spiral dynamics? Some? Cool, good. Well, not very many, but anyway, what it is it's not a real teaching of unity, but some people in unity teach it, and it is like here you go, not too long ago, in fact, some people may be still in the warrior consciousness. Some people in the traditional consciousness, modernist consciousness, postmodern consciousness, integral consciousness, post-integral consciousness. See, it's kind of like the Fillmore's teachings of
consciousness, subconscious.
Yes, and super consciousness. Super consciousness is where you want to try to be, where you're always in line with God. And this is how we do it. This is from the Revealing Word too. Magnify the Lord. Now you can, if it bothers you, just leave off the Lord. The mind possesses magnifying power, which it exercises habitually. Okay, what does that mean? We are always going to do this anyway. The mind possesses magnifying power. It expresses it habitually. We're always doing it. Okay? We're always magnifying power, either consciously or unconsciously. This power makes the mind the fertile side of man's nature, out of which springs the issues of life. We magnify the Lord by anticipation. We magnify life by anticipation, by expecting, by declaring that only the good, that should have been capitalized, is true, by steadfastly declaring that every blessing is ours now. Now, if we think that, it's going to magnify that. You know, sometimes we can do things and they become rote, meaning they become meaningless. We're just saying them because we're saying them, we're used to saying them, we are kind of told to say them, kind of like if you have a prayer. But also, we sometimes use mantras. Well, they can become rote also. Okay? So there's not a one thing that you can do it. Just as long as the feeling, the understanding is behind it when you do it. But this is so important because what we decide that we're going to put in our mind, and more importantly, put out in our life, is going to be magnified. So, if we're not careful, then we can magnify something that we don't want to be magnified. Isn't that true? We do that sometimes. Our ability to remember the past, both the mistakes and the glories we have experienced, will allow us to grow in our spiritual knowledge and understanding. So in other words, all the stuff that we have in our past, and that's kind of like in the past, meaning our subconscious, can be our subconscious, which is our subconscious, really. But our subconscious holds everything that's happened in our physical life in it, right? And some people will even argue that it holds things that happened before our physical life in it. In fact, there's a good argument for that, because if you have to be able to do that, to agree to that, to say there's a super consciousness. Or if you believe in kenosis, there has to be that. So whatever, though, that we have has happened in the past, how many people have been hurt in the past? Emotionally, okay. How many people have had some type of euphoria in the past? Everybody has, right? Now, which one of those are you going to focus on? True. Now, I'm asking the question because we do get to choose there. And sometimes, for whatever reason, we choose, I'm going to focus on me getting hurt. God doesn't declare victims. God only has victors. And the things that we go through in life allow us to see, you know what, this is great. Some people go through life, I bring up money a lot in my lessons, and there's a reason for that. And it's a lot of it probably has to do with my own history. Some people in life have gone through life to this point without ever having a money problem. Just gone through life and never had a collector call them, never had anything happen to them that was unpleasant. Right? I kind of wish I could say that. But that's not what has happened to me. And so I value the importance of things that happen to us in all areas of life, meaning financial also. And that's why I have always wanted a congregation of nothing less than millionaires. Nothing less than millionaires. Now, at first, a long time ago, I said I wanted a congregation of nothing but millionaires. But now I know that we can strive higher than that. It's like Fillmore said when he said, don't pray for $10 when God had 100 in store for you. Right?
Right.
So we can strive higher. I want people that have an unlimited consciousness in all areas of their life in the congregation. Why? Because that allows everything to just blossom. We're getting to start the springtime right now. We can see it outside, how life comes back in things that look like they were dead, right? Wow, couldn't we do that? Yeah, we can. We can. At any time in our life. It doesn't make a difference what's going on outside. But we do. What do we have to do that? We have to have the mental awareness and focus to do that. Because whatever we're going to see in our life, we have magnified from some thoughts that have either happened to us or we've experienced in some way. But we're magnifying it. So whatever we're experiencing in life, even though this is an old teaching that some people don't like to hear, whatever we're experiencing in life, we have brought on ourselves. A lot of people don't like that. Because it depends on what you're focused on, though, right? If I'm focused on, man, things are going pretty good. I brought this on myself. Right? And we're kind of cool. That doesn't mean you're not humble about it, but that's kind of cool. I'm following that path that God intended for me to follow. But if we're focused on something negative, then I didn't bring that on myself. That person over there did me wrong. Right? Don't need to go there. It doesn't make a difference what anybody else has done. It's what we are choosing to look at and how to live our life. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I would want to go back to the place that I was sentenced to help people. I just don't know if I'd like to do that. St. Patrick's was sentenced to Ireland as a form of punishment. And yet he chose afterwards to go back because he had this euphoria sensation when he was there. Not for himself, but for other people to understand that. And I found out something about St. Patrick, which I didn't really investigate, and I don't know, some people might know this, that the original color, and I guess in fact, y'all have been over in Ireland, right? So something about the, not the four-leaf clover, what's the shamrock?
Yeah.
Is it called shamrock?
Yeah.
It's got a blue tint to it or something at some time. Something, anyway, the blue was the original color instead of green, and I don't understand that exactly, but anyway, you can look it up. Heaven, though, I want you to know this, and everybody kind of, or at least we've been taught incorrectly about heaven. Heaven is not a place out there, up there, or wherever. Heaven is the underlayment of what we experience at all times. And don't get me wrong, you don't need to start digging for it. But it is the underlayment of everything that we have, right, in life? And when we understand that, then we can really, really take your shoes off because you're walking on holy ground. Can't we?
Yes.
Can't we understand that a little bit more when we do that? Heaven is the underlayment of everything in life. This life and any experience of life that we have. When we treat each other less than, we are covering up heaven in which we live in. That's kind of a unique picture. Okay. So it's not only to do with us. Although we are the keyest player in our life. But it not only has to do with us. It has to do with everyone. In fact, I heard Joel Osteen say this joke, and I want to see if anybody takes offense to it. If you do, that's okay. Tell me later. And I'm not doing it just to say give offense, but anyway, no, I'm going to do it.
No.
I'm going to see if I can remember it.
No.
And he was talking about
That premise.
race relationships as far as what we look like on the outside. Okay, and his service was about that. And what he said was, Francie's praying for me right now. And what he said is he found it interesting that, African Americans are considered sometimes black. And yet, or rather colored people. And then, yet, they are born with the color of their skin, and they end up dying, and they stay that color all their life. Yet white people are born reddish. When they get cold, they're bluish. When they get hot, they're reddish again. And when they die, they're purple. And yet they call black people colored people. Okay, so everybody's hesitant on that. That's good. You have to touch it. You have to touch it. Come on. This is one of those things where we might be thinking, oh, something bad's happened in my life. I'm focusing on it, but let me get it out there. Okay? All right. If you took offense to it, I apologize. Come talk to me later. We'll get over it. Together. Uh-oh.
You turned it off.
I must have done something wrong.
I shut you down.
God, the spirit of life, of our life, is everlasting. I've talked about this many times as far as our life not ending here. I think most people agree with our life not ending when we physically die. Yet if we can understand that and agree with that, then why can't we understand and agree with heaven can be here right now? Are we looking at it like some other religions that say we have to wait for our good? I hope not. But sometimes we do that, don't we? It's like what we focus on, what we are magnifying. If we magnify the things that have happened or we've been experienced, I keep saying happen, and I don't mean to say that, because life doesn't happen to us. We experience life the way we experience life. And it comes from a lot of things. It comes from where we're at in life and what we've experienced before that time. It comes from a lot of things. But if we stay focused on our spiritual understanding, then we can always see or pull the good. You know, we had I don't want to, I'm trying to think of the right word. I guess tragedy would be all right. A horrible tragedy, it's not really the word I want, but happened in New Zealand, didn't we? And I listen to the people there that live there, and they say, like a lot of people, say, well, you know, we're just all surprised because that happens usually in other countries. Right? I don't know if you heard that or not, but I heard a lot of New Zealanders say that have lived there a lot. And it's true, it does. But to me, it brings back the idea, the fact that we are all one. Until we include everybody and figure out what the heck is going on, then we're going to have silly stuff like that happen. Regrettably. It's terrible. And I would say it's not a good thing. You know, not everything that happens is good, even though we used to say, some people still say it's all good. I can say, though, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, because to me, that isn't saying that everything that happens is good. To me, that is saying that everything in life has good in it. Now, I'm not ready to, and I don't know who it was. I don't remember the guy's name. I don't really care. But the person who perpetrated that, I'm not ready right now in my spiritual understanding, I wish I was, to say, you know, hey, that guy's got some good in it. Right? I know deep within me, though, there is the Christ within him. It was a him, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's 3 hymns. Yeah.
It was 3 people?
Yes, right.
Okay, see, I didn't even know that.
Well, the others got released. They said they weren't.
I think it's only one, I think.
Okay, well, whatever it was, what am I going to focus on? What am I going to focus on? I'm going to focus my energies, as far as that situation is concerned, on lifting up the people that are still here that have experienced that. Lifting up the people of New Zealand that are in shock that something like that happened in their country.
And the loss.
Mm-hmm. We have to help lift each other up. Instead, and as hard as it is, I want to lift him up, whoever him is. Boy, that's the toughest part, I know. But we have to. Otherwise, we're kind of, and even though I 100% believe this, I was told this as a kid, and probably some of y'all were told it. A good thought is 10 times more powerful than a bad thought. And so every good thought is going to cancel out 10 bad thoughts. And I believe that 100% because when we focus on the good, and we're coming from, here's why I believe that. When we focus on the good, then that is the truth of who we are. That is our God self, our spirit coming forth, isn't it? And there is nothing stronger than that. Nothing. And so these little lies that we tell ourselves, that there's bad and there's bad people and there's evil that exists as a power, can be eliminated by understanding the good. And that doesn't mean we always see it right off. The good, because we are human, and I'm not giving us an excuse, I'm just saying because we are human, and sometimes we get into that human mode, we don't always see the good in a situation or in a person sometimes. But whoever did that probably had a mom and dad. In fact, I know they did. I don't know if they're still alive. But how would you feel if one of your kids did something like that? It's not a singular happening. I'm sure he didn't go to mom and dad and say, I feel like I need to do this. So mom and dad feel bad, real bad, feel terrible, feel a little bit responsible. Right? Were they responsible though? No, they're not responsible. Those of you who don't have kids, I know that you may think something else. It's something that we have to choose how we're going to think about what happens in our life and what we feel about it. And it's best to address it right then and there. If we feel really bad for the people that experience that, then we can do that for a second. But let's shift our awareness to thinking something good about the people involved, if nothing else. Because that's going to shift the consciousness of the whole race. And I'm not talking about the outside we look. I'm talking about the human race. And if we don't do it, who's going to do it? I don't know. But somebody's got to do it. For things to change, somebody has to do it. And for things to change from good, better, best, instead of bad and good, we have to be, if you want it in your life at least, you have to be the one to do it. All right. The spirit of life is everlasting. We can choose to grasp the everlasting spirit, or we will die a mortal death. Now this touches on regeneration. I know that we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and that a lot of people didn't like the idea, but it's an idea. It's a good idea, I think. It has some science to it. But anyway, I'm not going to get in the argument with it. Because it's not arguing. I'm not arguing. I'm just presenting the idea. Because it's what I think. And regeneration is the idea that spirit can regenerate, is so powerful that it can regenerate your body. And you don't have to physically die if you don't want to. But do you see what I'm talking about here? We can choose to grasp the everlasting spirit. If we do that, if we actually did that. Now, I get the regeneration idea out of your mind. But if you actually, first of all, I guess we'll phrase it that way. Our spirit lives on forever. We said that earlier, right? And so if our spirit is that powerful, then what is more powerful than the spirit? Your body sure isn't. And it has to do with health, too. This is how we increase our health. The thoughts we hold on to in our subconscious is the basis of our life and determines our lifespan. So it does take quite a few of us to think that we don't have to die at whatever it is, 110. We don't have to die then. In fact, what was it, the 1800s or early 1900s? I think it's the 1800s, that the average lifespan was something like 48. And now it's 80-something. I looked it up after I made that faux pas the other day in church. It's about saying if you live over 80 or something like that. I don't know what I was saying. But the average lifespan is in the 80s right now. How did that happen? Well, medical advancements, no, granted, medical advancements, no doubt about that. But also, don't you think it has to do with something that how we take care of ourselves? How we live our life? And how we live our life is what we're thinking. Talk good about one another, that is spirit talking. This is what Francie put up there. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Oh, that's not what Francie put up there. It's Proverbs. Gotcha, huh? It's a gotcha for me. Warren didn't know it's something from the Bible. Oh well, I didn't know Proverbs 6. Is it 16? I don't even know what verse that is. 16:24. Yeah, looks like it. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. That's one of those I breezed over, I guess. Do good for each other, including yourself. That is spirit expressing. I don't really know how. Now, maybe somebody could help me with this later on. I don't know how you could do good for yourself and not do good for others. I guess it's possible. Because I think, at least most people in unity, most people I've experienced in life, that's the last bastion. Doing good for yourself. Instead of, to me, I've always known people that doing good for others is a lot easier than doing good for ourselves. And why I say that is, one of the reasons is because of the money deal. Why isn't everybody got a bank account that's over $1 million in here? I'll tell you why. It's because we don't think that we're worthy of it. And I know that's something, Warren, I'd take $1 million in a second. Oh yeah, I know. And I wanted to tell you that there was a lady that won the $1.5 billion and she came fourth, and so we're not getting any of that, sorry. In the lottery. Remember the largest lottery? She came fourth. But the reason we don't have what we want financially is because, for whatever reason, and it takes time sometimes to figure out what the reason is, what the subconscious thought is, but why we don't is because we do not feel worthy in some way. Now, some people have inherited a lot of money and lived off that money. I saw the other day the daughter of Walt Disney. She was on a show, and she was saying how she doesn't do anything for her money because she inherited so much money that she lives off of the interest and stuff, and even more. She keeps gathering more, And she felt bad about it. Why I bring her up is she felt bad about it and was trying to change some things as far as the tax code. But why I say that is even when we get money, some people, especially if you're not used to it or you don't feel worthy of it, some people will feel that I'm not worthy of it. If you have a ton of money and you feel bad about having it, give it away. Is that hard? Really? Seriously? If that's the problem, then why wouldn't it make you feel better? Just give it away.
Yep.
You notice I didn't even say to the church, me, or the building, did I? Just give it away.
You can say it now.
You can say it now, Francis says. We do that in all parts of our life, though. Think good about everyone and everything that is spirit living as you. This one I do know. It's from 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you know that God's Spirit dwells in you? Kind of changed it, but that's okay. Do you know that God's Spirit dwells in you? I watched the other day, and I've seen parts of it throughout the years because it's an older movie, but it was during the boys' nap time, and so I just flicked on the TV, and I was supposed to be doing some other stuff, but I flicked on the TV and watched Eat, Pray, Love. And a lot of people have seen that. I had never seen it all the way. I saw most of it. I started late. I saw it, and it was like, my God. How many people have seen that movie? I was thinking, my God, did these people take a Unity handbook and make it into a movie? Really? Do you remember that? She, the star of it, Julia Roberts, goes through this Eat, Pray, Love, and during the pray part, it's like she comes into this idea that is common and easy and simple understanding for us in Unity, but it's not that all common and easy understand for everybody. It's like she came into let me see, God dwells in me, and I'm expressing as God in my life. And it's just hilarious to me when somebody says that, and it's a something, a revolution for them, which I'm more than happy about it, and yet I'm surprised. And Reverend Francie was at a meeting all day Saturday, and the presenter was a doctor of, I think, psychology or whatever it was. Anyway, she had a doctorate, and she was saying about how your thoughts can shape your life. And everybody was like, oh, yeah. And Francie raised her hand and said, in Unity, we have thoughts held in mind produced after their kind. It's like, so it is important to do like Jerry and Bonnie and all them were saying, is to don't feel like you're infringing on someone when you tell them about these teachings. It could be a life-turning event for them. Just feel free to express it without any regrets, without any trepidation, without any scaredness of you're going to, step on their religious beliefs. Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of religion, the old-time religion, has adapted a lot of our teachings to begin with. But we need to speed up the process. One of the reasons I became a minister was because I thought that, everybody's going to change. We're going to change this human consciousness easily before my lifetime's over. Don't go, Dr. Anna.
I was thinking of your naivety.
Yeah, you're right. And I'll admit, I have some naivete in a lot of things. Yet, if we don't not only expect it, but if we don't allow that thought to be there, then it's never going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen. If we say, well, it can never happen in my lifetime, then this is never going to happen for sure in your lifetime. And I plan on living forever, so it's going to happen in my lifetime. You are a saint when you choose to live from spirit. That's a good picture, Francie. Have you ever thought of yourself as a saint? I mean, not from a Catholic sense, but the word saint, you kind of think, at least I think of saint as a person that's performed a miracle. I'm kind of going on the Catholic deal now, but a person who's performed a couple of miracles. I think you have to perform 2 miracles. Who's Catholic? Oh, it's 3 miracles?
Yeah, it's more than
3?
2. Yeah, you got to do 3.
Okay. Well, maybe, I don't know
And
why
they
I
have
said.
to be confirmed miracles. Can't be, like
It can't be
hearsay.
just I said. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know why that is. But,
Only one
Step
person
under
saw
it.
it. No.
Oh, only one. Okay.
You have to plan your miracle
Oh.
and have witnesses.
Okay. So, but have you ever thought of yourself as a saint being to that level of humanity? Because actually a saint is a human, right?
Yes.
But it's a very, what's the difference then? It's a person that supposedly has done the miracles and lived a life of spirituality, right?
Yes.
Well, aren't we doing that? I hope we
Yes.
are. I think as everybody in here, I see everybody in here today, and I don't know of any of you that is not living from the best Christ you know how to live from. I don't see anybody not doing that. So if we're doing that, the next Sunday you need to bring the saint. What are you saying?
I said we all need to say Saint Warren, Saint Bill, Saint
Yeah.
Sandra.
Right. Well, yeah.
We
Well,
have
I've
new
asked you.
titles.
Right. I've asked you to do. Okay, that's good. I've asked you to do your first name and then say Christ afterwards in front of the mirror before. And so now you can go home and say the easier one. Maybe this will build you up to that. Saint Anna, Saint BJ.
Saint
Huh?
Francie.
And what are you laughing at that for?
From a CC?
Can you do that? That's easier. Is that easier than Evie Christ? Is that easier than Christ? Yes or no? It doesn't make no difference whether it's easier or not. Do both.
So you're covered.
I'm
Saint
covered. So you're covered. Yeah.
So we now we have new first names and last names.
Yes. New first names and last name. I am bequeathing you first and last name. Okay. All right. This is a.
Saint Francie Christ. That's right.
That's exactly how you do it. So, all right.
Thank you,
Well,
Saint Didi Christ.
I hope that we can all learn, or not learn, we know it already, but understand that Christ Spirit within us automatically makes us a saint if we choose to live that way. And we don't have to choose anything less than that. Can we agree to that?
Yes.
All right, if we agree to that, then I know that we can go forth and live a life like a saint, but be one that we receive all the blessings that God has for us. And so today's song is a little bit different. It's a song that I found a long time ago, actually, and was waiting for the right time to play it. I think today is. So let's see what it says. It's I See You in Me. And I don't know who does it really, but I think you'll like it.
I need to. Click it one more time, please.
Okay.
You have a clicker.
I know, it's not moving.